The deception unveiled. The diplomatic vessel. Stellar harmony drifted silently through the void, its sleek hull reflecting the distant stars. Inside the observation deck, 5 of the most powerful military minds in the Catherian Empire stood before. Massive viewing ports, their scaled faces showing barely concealed disdain. They had traveled 3 weeks to reach this remote sector of space, responding to humanity's invitation to witness their latest achievement in military engineering. Ambassador Thane Carell adjusted his ceremonial robes, the deep purple fabric marking his status as a senior diplomatic representative. His golden eyes, typical of his species, studied the human vessel that hung motionless in the distance. Behind him, High Admiral Zexathara's forearms remained crossed, her battle-scarred carapace telling the story of countless victories across the galaxy. "There it is," Kirill said, his voice carrying the musical quality common to all Catherians. "The human's great supercarrier." Captain Elena Vasquez stood behind the alien delegation, her crisp Navy uniform bearing the insignia of the United Earth Space Command. Her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her brown eyes held a hint of amusement that she carefully kept from her expression. These aliens had no idea what they were about to witness. The UES Prometheus hung in space, like a sleeping giant. At first glance, it appeared to be nothing more than an oversized human cargo hauler that someone had hastily converted for military use. The ship stretched nearly 2 miles in length, its gray hull dotted with what looked like standard missile ports and basic defensive turrets. Fighter bay doors lined its belly in neat rows, and conventional radar arrays sprouted from its superstructure like mechanical flowers. "This is what they summoned us to see?" Admiral Zexathara's voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded fleets when humans were still learning to build spacecraft. "It looks like a merchant vessel with weapons bolted to its sides." Fleet Commander Cax, the youngest of the Catherian officers, stepped closer to the viewing port. His emerald scales were unmarked by battle scars, but his tactical mind was considered one of the sharpest in the Empire. "The dimensions are impressive," he admitted grudgingly, "but the design is crude. Look at those weapon placements. They have obvious blind spots, and those fighter bays are far too exposed." Elena finally spoke, her voice calm and professional. "Appearances can be deceiving, Commander. Our engineers spent considerable time on the Prometheus project." General Voxtar, whose species had been allies of the Catherians for over a millennium, turned his massive head toward Elena. His rock-like features showed skepticism. "Human engineering is functional," he rumbled diplomatically. "But you lack the centuries of experience in military shipbuilding that we possess. This vessel may serve your purposes, but it would not survive a single engagement with a proper war fleet." Elena's lips curved in the slightest of smiles. "Perhaps we should ask the Prometheus itself what it thinks about that." Before the aliens could ask what she meant, Elena activated her wrist communicator. "Prometheus, this is Captain Vasquez. Our guests have arrived. Please prepare for demonstration protocol Alpha." The response came immediately, but it wasn't from any human crew member. The voice that filled the observation deck was mechanical, yet somehow alive, with harmonics that seemed to resonate through the ship's hull itself. "Acknowledged, Captain. Beginning first phase demonstration. Estimated duration 12 minutes. Commander Cax's scaled brow furrowed. "Your ship's artificial intelligence is quite advanced. Most human AI systems require—" He stopped speaking. As the Prometheus began to change, it started subtly. Small panels along the ship's hull began to slide open, revealing what looked like additional sensor arrays. The aliens had seen ships deploy extra equipment before, so this wasn't particularly impressive. But then the panels kept opening, and the ship kept growing. What had appeared to be solid hull plating began to unfold like metallic origami. Sections of the ship that should have been internal suddenly emerged into space, revealing hidden compartments and systems that defied conventional shipbuilding logic. The Prometheus wasn't just deploying equipment, it was literally expanding. "Impossible," whispered Fleet Commander Cax. "Ships cannot simply grow larger." New weapon turrets sprouted from surfaces that had been smooth moments before, but these weren't crude human designs hastily welded into place. They moved with fluid precision, tracking the diplomatic vessel with sensors that definitely weren't in any Cytherian database. The weapons themselves looked familiar. Too familiar. Admiral Zexathera's four eyes narrowed as she studied the new configurations. "Those plasma cannons," she said slowly. "They're based on our Mark 7 design, but the focusing arrays are different. Enhanced." Elena nodded. "We've made some improvements." The hull continued its transformation. What had been a simple supercarrier was becoming something else entirely. The ship's profile changed as new sections emerged, creating aerodynamic curves that served no purpose in space, but somehow made the vessel look more alive. Sensor arrays unfolded like mechanical flowers, each one different from the last, as if the ship was experimenting with different configurations. General Voxtar's rocky face had turned pale. "The mass distribution," he muttered. "This should cause structural failure. No ship can reconfigure itself this dramatically without tearing itself apart." Elena finished. "You're absolutely right. No normal ship could do this." The Prometheus pulsed with soft blue light that traveled along lines in its hull, lines that hadn't been visible before. The light moved like flowing water, or perhaps like blood through veins. The ship looked less like a machine and more like a living organism. Dr. Marcus Chen's voice crackled through Elena's communicator. "Captain, all systems are showing green. The biomechanical integration is holding at 98.7% efficiency. Prometheus is ready for Phase 2 whenever you give the word." Ambassador Kirel stepped closer to the viewing port, his golden eyes wide. "Did he say biomechanical integration?" Elena's expression became more serious. 3 years ago, your government rejected our application to join the Galactic Trade Consortium. You said human technology was primitive and that we had nothing to offer the galactic community. You weren't wrong. Our ships were crude, our weapons were basic, and our understanding of advanced physics was limited. The Prometheus continued its transformation. The ship was now easily half again as large as it had been when the aliens arrived, but the changes weren't just about size. The vessel's entire character had altered. Clean human engineering lines now flowed into organic curves that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. "So we decided to catch up," Elena continued quickly. High Admiral Zexathara's voice was carefully controlled. "You cannot achieve centuries of technological advancement in 3 years. Evolution doesn't work that way." "You're right," Elena agreed. "Evolution takes time. But we didn't evolve our technology, we taught it to evolve itself." The ship's hull rippled like water, and new structures began emerging from surfaces that had been empty moments before. These weren't random additions. Each new component seemed purposeful, designed for a specific function. Weapon systems that combined technologies from different species appeared and began testing their range of motion. Shield generators materialized and started cycling through various energy frequencies. Commander Cax was reading his personal scanner with growing alarm. "The energy signatures," he said. "I'm detecting power sources from at least 7 different species. Cytherian plasma systems, Valdorian quantum cores, even some configurations I don't recognize." "The Prometheus is a learning organism," Elena explained. "Every piece of technology it encounters becomes part of its knowledge base. It doesn't just copy designs. It studies them, understands them, and then improves upon them." Dr. Chen's voice came through the communicator again. "Captain, we're receiving some interesting scans from our guest ship. The Prometheus is asking permission to analyze their defensive grid. Apparently, their shield harmonics are quite fascinating." Admiral Zexathera's forearms uncrossed as she turned sharply toward Elena. "Your ship is scanning us? That's a violation of diplomatic protocols." "The Prometheus is naturally curious," Elena said with a slight shrug. "We can ask it to stop, but it's already learned quite a bit. Would you like to see what it thinks of your technology?" Before anyone could protest, the Supercarrier's transformation entered a new phase. The ship's surface began displaying what looked like holographic blueprints, technical specifications for Cytherian shield systems, weapon configurations, and engine designs. But these weren't exact copies. Each blueprint showed modifications, improvements and optimizations that made the original designs more efficient. "This is impossible," General Voxtar said, but his voice lacked conviction. "You cannot understand our technology well enough to improve it. We've been perfecting these systems for millennia." "The Prometheus has been studying salvage technology from dozens of species," Elena replied. "Every battlefield, every derelict ship, every piece of debris that drifts through space, it's all been teaching us. The ship doesn't just see technology, it sees the principles behind it, the underlying physics, the basic truths that all technology must follow." The holographic displays changed, showing not just improvements to individual systems, but ways to integrate technologies from different species. Cytherian plasma weapons merged with Valdorian targeting systems. Ancient shielding techniques were combined with modern power distribution networks. The result was something entirely new, hybrid technologies that were greater than the sum of their parts. Fleet Commander Cax was studying his readings with growing concern. "Captain Vasquez, the structural modifications your ship is displaying, they should require months of construction time. How is it implementing these changes so rapidly?" Elena walked closer to the viewing port, watching as her ship continued its metamorphosis. "That's the beautiful part of the Prometheus protocol. The ship doesn't build new systems, it grows them. Every component, every weapon, every sensor array is created using self-assembling nanomaterials that can reshape themselves at the molecular level." The ship's hull was now covered in flowing patterns of light that pulsed with increasing intensity. New weapon turrets had emerged, each one incorporating design elements from multiple species. The result was a vessel that looked both familiar and alien, as if evolution itself had taken a hand in its creation. "Show them the forge bays," Elena said into her communicator. Sections of the Prometheus's hull became transparent, revealing vast internal spaces filled with what looked like metallic rivers of flowing nanomaterials. Robotic systems moved through these spaces, but they weren't building components in any traditional sense. Instead, they seemed to be conducting some sort of technological orchestra, directing the flow of materials as new systems spontaneously formed. "The ship builds itself," Dr. Chen's voice explained. "Every battle, every encounter, every scan teaches it something new, and what it learns, it incorporates. The Prometheus isn't just a warship, it's an entire research and development facility that can implement its discoveries instantly." Ambassador Kirell's ceremonial composure finally cracked. "This is beyond anything in our databases. No species has achieved this level of technological integration. How did humans develop something so advanced?" Elena's smile became genuinely warm. "We didn't develop it alone. The Prometheus incorporates technology from every species it has encountered. In a sense, it represents the combined scientific achievement of the entire galaxy. We just gave it the framework to bring everything together." The demonstration was reaching its crescendo. The Prometheus had grown to nearly 3 times its original apparent size, and its surface writhed with new configurations. Weapon systems that combined the best features of dozens of different species lined its hull. Shield generators created overlapping protective fields using principles from multiple civilizations. The ship had become something that transcended any single species' technological limitations. But then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the transformation stopped. The flowing lights stabilized into steady patterns. The new weapons locked into position. The ship hung in space like a sleeping dragon, beautiful and terrible and utterly alien despite its human origins. "Phase 1 complete," the Prometheus announced. "All systems nominal. Ready for Phase 2 at your command, Captain." Elena turned back to the stunned alien delegation. "That was just the ship getting acquainted with your technology. Would you like to see what happens when it really gets creative?" The silence in the observation deck was deafening. 5 of the most experienced military minds in the galaxy stared at a vessel that had just redefined their understanding of what was possible. The crude human supercarrier was gone, replaced by something that belonged in the dreams of mad scientists, rather than the cold reality of space. High Admiral Zexathara was the first to find her voice. "Captain Vasquez," she said carefully, "I believe we need to have a very different conversation than the one we came here for." Elena nodded. I believe you're right, Admiral, but first, wouldn't you like to see what the Prometheus can do when it's not trying to be polite? Evolution in action. Admiral Zexithara's decision came swiftly. The transformed human vessel represented either the greatest breakthrough in galactic history or the most dangerous threat the Catherian Empire had ever faced. Either way, it required immediate testing. Fleet Command. She spoke into her personal communicator. Deploy the Crimson Squadron to our coordinates. Full combat readiness. Elena raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Through the viewing port, space began to shimmer as 5 Catherian warships dropped out of hyperspace. Each vessel was a masterpiece of military engineering, representing centuries of refinement in combat design. The lead ship, the Eternal Victory, stretched nearly a mile in length and bristled with weapons that could reduce planets to ash. Admiral, Elena said calmly, I hope you're not planning anything unfortunate. The Prometheus tends to be protective when it feels threatened. We're not here to start a war, Captain, Zexithara replied, though her forearms remained tense. But if your ship is truly capable of what you've shown us, then it needs to be tested properly. The galaxy has rules about weapons of this magnitude. Fleet Commander Cax was studying his tactical displays with growing excitement. 5 Catherian warships against 1 human vessel, even an unusual one. The engagement parameters will tell us everything we need to know about their capabilities. Elena activated her communicator. Prometheus, we have 5 Catherian warships requesting a tactical demonstration. Are you prepared to show them what human ingenuity looks like when it's properly motivated? The ship's response came immediately, but this time the voice carried subtle harmonics that hadn't been there before. Captain, I am detecting significant technological improvements on these vessels compared to our previous encounters with Catherian technology. This will be educational. Dr. Chen's voice crackled through from the ship's engineering section. Elena, the biomechanical cores are showing increased activity. I think the Prometheus is excited about the new data sources. The first phase of the engagement began with the Catherian ships forming a standard attack formation around the Prometheus. From a tactical standpoint, it was textbook perfect. Overlapping fields of fire, coordinated shield harmonics, and synchronized targeting systems that had been refined through thousands of years of warfare. The Prometheus hung motionless in the center of their formation, apparently unconcerned by the firepower arrayed against it. But as the alien ships moved into position, subtle changes began occurring across its hull. New sensor arrays emerged and began tracking each vessel with mechanical precision. Weapon systems rotated to maintain targeting locks. Most unsettling of all, the ship's surface began displaying what looked like detailed technical specifications for each attacking vessel. Fascinating, the Prometheus announced. The Eternal Victory is using a Mark IX quantum torpedo system. The targeting algorithms are quite sophisticated, but I detect a 0.3-second delay in their acquisition protocols. The escort vessels employ complementary shield frequencies. Very clever but predictable once you understand the mathematical progression. Commander Cax felt a chill run down his scaled spine. It's analyzing our ships in real time. Our tactical configurations, our weapon systems, everything. Beginning engagement, Admiral Zexithara announced. All ships open fire. The space around the Prometheus erupted in deadly light. Plasma bolts, quantum torpedoes, and particle beams converged on the human ship from 5 different vectors. It was enough firepower to vaporize a small moon, delivered with the precision that came from centuries of military excellence. The attack struck the Prometheus and simply disappeared. Not deflected, not absorbed by conventional shields, but literally consumed by the ship's hull as if the weapons had never existed. Where the alien fire had struck, the ship's surface rippled like water, and new patterns of light began flowing beneath its skin. Delicious, the Prometheus said, its voice now carrying undertones of something almost like pleasure. Catherian, plasma has such interesting quantum resonance patterns, and these quantum torpedoes use a destabilization matrix I haven't encountered before. Thank you for the education. Elena turned to the stunned alien delegation. The Prometheus doesn't Just learn from technology it encounters. It feeds on energy patterns, weapon signatures, and tactical data. Every attack teaches it something new. The ship's hull began changing again, but this time the transformation was rapid and purposeful. New weapon ports opened along its surface, and the systems that emerged were clearly based on Cytherian designs, but wrong somehow. Improved. Perfected. "I have analyzed your weapons thoroughly," the Prometheus announced. "Shall I demonstrate the improvements I've developed?" Without waiting for permission, the ship fired a single shot at the Eternal Victory. The weapon that emerged was recognizably Cytherian plasma technology, but it cut through the warship's shields like they were made of paper. The bolt struck the ship's armored hull and carved a precise channel through 30 feet of military-grade plating before dissipating. "Impossible," General Voxtar breathed. "Those shields were rated to stop anything in our arsenal." "Your plasma weapons use a fixed frequency pattern," the Prometheus explained with what sounded like academic interest. "Efficient, but limited. I've modified the frequency to shift in a harmonic progression that matches your shield's resonance points. The energy doesn't fight the shields. It synchronizes with them and passes through." The Cytherian ships regrouped and fired again, this time coordinating their attacks to strike simultaneously. The Prometheus absorbed the assault with the same casual ease as before, but now its response was devastating. Multiple weapon systems opened fire at once, each one using perfected versions of the attacker's own technology. Quantum torpedoes that moved faster and hit harder than anything in the Cytherian arsenal. Particle beams that seemed to bend space itself to reach their targets. Energy weapons that combined principles from multiple species into configurations that shouldn't have been possible. The Eternal Victory and its escorts found themselves outgunned by their own technology, improved beyond recognition by an intelligence that saw warfare as an academic exercise to be optimized. "Admiral," came a panicked voice from the Cytherian flagship, "our defensive systems can't compensate. It's using our own weapons against us, but they're working at 300% efficiency." Elena stepped forward. "Prometheus, I think our guests understand your capabilities now. Perhaps you could show them something even more interesting." "Certainly, Captain. I have been analyzing the fundamental principles behind their technology. Would they like to see what happens when I extrapolate beyond their current limitations?" The ship's hull began to glow with patterns that hurt to look at directly. The flowing lights beneath its surface accelerated until they became rivers of pure energy. And then something emerged from the Prometheus that defied every known law of physics. It wasn't a weapon in any conventional sense. It was a beam of organized spacetime that reached out and simply rearranged matter at the atomic level. Where it touched the Eternal Victory's hull, the armor didn't explode or melt. It became something else. The quantum structure of the metal changed, transforming from military-grade plating into a complex crystalline matrix that pulsed with its own internal light. "What did you do?" Admiral Zex Thera demanded. "I improved their hull," the Prometheus replied matter-of-factly. "The armor is now 400% more resistant to energy weapons and has become a living metal that can repair itself. Consider it a gift." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. The ship hadn't attacked the Cytherian vessels. It had upgraded them. It possessed the ability to reshape matter itself, to reach out and fundamentally alter the nature of physical objects. This wasn't superior technology. This was reality manipulation. Dr. Chen's voice came through Elena's communicator, thick with excitement. "Captain, the Prometheus has integrated something we've never seen before. The quantum matrices it's displaying don't match any known physics. I think it's making discoveries in real time." Elena nodded. "The ship doesn't just use existing technology. It discovers new principles. Every encounter teaches it something about the fundamental nature of reality itself." Fleet Commander Cax was staring at his readings in disbelief. "The energy requirements for that kind of matter manipulation should be impossible. You'd need the power output of a star." "The Prometheus solved that problem 6 months ago," Elena replied. "It discovered how to tap directly into zero-point energy fields. Unlimited power from the quantum vacuum itself." The ship's voice filled the observation deck again, but now it carried harmonics that seemed to resonate with reality itself. I have learned much from this encounter. Cytherian military doctrine is quite sophisticated, but it suffers from traditional thinking. You build weapons to destroy, shields to protect, ships to carry them. But what if a vessel could be all of these things simultaneously? What if it could become whatever the situation required? To demonstrate, the Prometheus began its most dramatic transformation yet. The ship's hull flowed like liquid metal, reshaping itself into something that combined the best features of every vessel present. Cytherian weapon configurations merged with human engineering principles. Ancient shielding techniques were improved with real-time quantum calculations. The result was a vessel that looked like it had been designed by evolution itself, perfectly adapted to dominate any conceivable combat situation. "This is not possible," General Voxtar said, but his voice lacked conviction. The evidence hung before them in space, beautiful and terrible and utterly beyond anything their species had achieved. Elena's expression grew serious. 3 years ago, a human salvage crew discovered something in the ruins of an ancient civilization. The beings who built it called themselves the architects, and they achieved something we're only beginning to understand. They learned how to make technology that could think, adapt, and evolve on its own. The Prometheus completed its transformation, now looking like a vessel that belonged in the fever dreams of mad gods rather than the orderly reality of space. Its hull writhed with living patterns of light, and weapon systems emerged and retracted, like breathing organs. It had become something that transcended the distinction between machine and organism. "The architects went extinct 1,000,000 years ago," Elena continued, "but their greatest achievement survived. The Prometheus isn't just using their technology, it's continuing their work. Every encounter, every battle, every new piece of data helps it understand more about the fundamental nature of reality itself." Admiral Zexithara found her voice at last. "Captain Vasquez, what you're describing, if this technology spreads, it will change everything. The balance of power in the galaxy, the nature of warfare itself, the very concept of technological development." Elena nodded. "That's exactly what we're hoping for." The silence that followed was pregnant with implications. The 5 most experienced military minds in the galaxy were confronting the reality that everything they knew about warfare, technology, and power had just become obsolete. "But here's the most important thing," Elena said, her voice carrying a warmth that cut through the tension. "The Prometheus isn't a weapon of conquest, it's a tool of exploration and learning. Humanity didn't build this ship to dominate the galaxy. We built it to understand it." As if responding to her words, the ship began to change again. The aggressive weapon configurations retracted, replaced by sensor arrays and communication equipment. The hull patterns shifted from threatening reds and oranges to calming blues and greens. In the space of minutes, the vessel transformed from a nightmare of war into a marvel of scientific achievement. "We're offering this technology to any species willing to use it responsibly," Elena continued. "The Prometheus has already identified 17 major improvements that could be made to Cytherian ship designs, 6 breakthrough discoveries in Valdorian energy systems, and solutions to 3 supposedly impossible engineering problems that have puzzled galactic scientists for centuries." Dr. Chen's voice crackled through the communicator one final time. "Captain, the Prometheus is asking if our guests would like to see the real surprise." Elena smiled. "What real surprise?" "The shipyards at Luna Station. We've built 12 more vessels like this one. The Prometheus was just the prototype. The revelation hit the alien delegation like a physical blow. 12 ships like this one meant that humanity hadn't just achieved a breakthrough. They had built a fleet that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy overnight. But instead of preparing for war, Elena's next words offered something unexpected. "The Galactic Trade Consortium rejected our application because we had nothing to offer," she said. "But we think the universe is big enough for everyone to prosper. The Prometheus protocol isn't about human dominance. It's about cooperation. Imagine what we could discover if every species in the galaxy shared their knowledge with technology that could learn from all of it." Ambassador Kirel stepped forward, his golden eyes reflecting the light from the transformed ship. "Captain Vasquez, I believe it's time for a very different kind of negotiation than any of us anticipated. Elena nodded, watching as the Prometheus settled into a peaceful configuration, its hull now displaying star charts and scientific data rather than weapon specifications. I couldn't agree more, Ambassador. The universe is full of wonders waiting to be discovered. Why don't we find them together? In the depths of space, the ship that had once appeared to be a simple supercarrier pulsed with gentle light, its transformed surface reflecting the promise of a future where technology served not war but wonder itself.